Why was a temple meant to be one of the 7 wonders never finished? What happened to the Colossus of Rhodes, a massive statue that stood tall for just 56 years before it was destroyed? And the Great Wall of China, an iconic symbol of strength, but did you know huge sections were never completed? These are unfinished ancient megastructures from history that were abandoned. The Temple of Artemis at Ephesus was an ancient Greek temple in what is now Turkey, supposed to be one of the grandest temples ever built. It was designed to be massive, imagine 127 columns, each one over 60 feet tall, and a marble structure so impressive that it was listed as one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. But as grand as this place was, the temple was never fully completed. It was burned down in 356 BCE by a man named Herostratus, who was trying to gain fame by burning it down. After the fire, they tried to rebuild it, but it just kept running into problems. The area was constantly under threat of invaders, and political instability kept interfering with the reconstruction. Over the centuries, it went through a bunch of different rebuilds, but no one ever had the chance to finish the full thing. And finally, the Goths, a group of Germanic tribes that played a huge part in the fall of the Western Roman Empire, attacked and destroyed what remained of it in 262 CE. And that was pretty much the end of the temple. Today, all we've got are foundations and little fragments of the last temple, a reminder of something that could have been much more. When the Colossus of Rhodes was built, it was one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world, towering over 100 feet tall. It was an incredible feat of engineering and a symbol of Rhodes' power. The statue, designed to honor the sun god Helios, took 12 years to build, but it didn't even last 56 years. A massive earthquake hit it in 226 BCE, toppling the statue into pieces. And then it was just never rebuilt. You'd think the Rhodians would rush to put it back up, but they didn't. Some say it was just too expensive, others think the statue's size just made it too hard to rebuild. It makes sense. They just spent over a decade building the thing for it to collapse just a little over 50 years later. They were probably just like, forget it, there's other things we gotta focus our energy on. And unfortunately, unlike a lot of the other places you'll see on this list, there's nothing left of this statue today. The remaining parts were sold off as scrap way back in the day, so all we have are stories and a few ancient sketches. And based on those, it does look like the thing was pretty awe-inspiring. We all know the Great Wall of China as one of the world's most iconic ancient structures, and as amazing as it was originally going to be even more grand. Not all of it is finished. Sure, we've got the grand sections that have been restored and preserved, but there are a lot of long stretches of the wall that were never fully completed. The wall wasn't all built at once, and some parts of it were built hastily. Different dynasties worked on it over the centuries, but the work was always interrupted by rebellions and logistical problems. Some sections were abandoned halfway through because the resources just weren't there anymore, or there was simply no need to continue. And in some cases, entire stretches of the wall were neglected and left to fall apart. The most famous parts of the wall were heavily restored during the Ming Dynasty, but if you travel further out, you'll find these abandoned, incomplete sections with crumbling stones and wildlife growing around them. Not what you typically picture when you think of the Great Wall of China. The Ziggurat of Ur, built around 2100 BCE, was an enormous stepped pyramid meant to honor the moon god Mana. It was a massive undertaking for the Sumerians, and it was supposed to make it one of the greatest structures of the ancient world, but like many ancient projects, the full vision never came to fruition. The Sumerians were very advanced when it came to a lot of things, but with all the invasions and internal conflict, their civilization eventually just collapsed. So by the time the ziggurat was nearly complete, things had gotten bad enough that the resources to finish the structure just weren't there anymore and had to be diverted elsewhere. And as the empire continued to fall apart, the ziggurat sat incomplete and much of the surrounding area was abandoned. But fortunately, the remnants of the ziggurat are still standing today. The unfinished obelisk in Aswan is just one giant piece of stone that was meant to be erected as an obelisk. If it had been completed, it would have been the largest obelisk in Egypt, measuring 138 feet and weighing about 1,200 tons. Given ancient Egypt's track record of incredible giant structures, this one would have been pretty awesome. But of course, it was never finished. The ancient Egyptians had started carving it out of the rock, but while it was still in the quarry, the stone cracked. The workers had no choice but to abandon the project. So today, you can still visit this gigantic chunk of stone that was originally going to be standing upright. It's just sitting there, still attached to the bedrock. It's kind of sad, right? The fact that this thing was so close to being finished, but then, whether it was a technical failure or just bad luck, it was left unfinished forever.